This podcast contains adult language and stories of true crime. If you don't like laughing, crying, or being horrified at the actions of other humans, this podcast is not for you.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of Resolve Mysteries. If this is your first time listening, welcome. You're amongst good people. We rewatch episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. You can watch them on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Tubi, Pluto TV, etc., depending on where you are located in the world. We each take a segment from the episode and research and update the segments. Episode numbers correspond to the episodes of the series. So this is our season 1, episode 21, and in it is also season 1, episode 21.
Yes.
It is not that confusing, but yet I stumble over it every time. We reference a ton of stuff. So if you want to see the photos we reference in the episode, you can follow us on Instagram at @re_solve mysteries and on Facebook and Twitter at Resolve the Pod. You can also contact us at resolvemysteriesPodcast.com. We have a P.O. box and we love mail. It's 14005, Portland, Oregon, 97293. We have a new merch store. There's a ton of good stuff there. The website for our merch is resolvemysteriespod.threadless.com. I used our tote bag the other day and I was kind of like, I don't care.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
And then, as most of you know, for every review that we receive, every month we donate to a different nonprofit. And this month we are donating to For Goodness Cakes. It's such a sweet program.
Yeah, they're just like baking cakes for kids' birthdays and other special events in their lives when they may not otherwise be able to have one. So
yeah,
it's such a great idea, and we love Brittany, and we're excited to be able to support her.
Yeah. And it's such a small gesture, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's such a...
But
it's very
such
meaningful.
a difference.
There's an immediacy of sort of like an instant gratification that you don't see with a lot of nonprofit stuff where you kind of...
Yeah, that's really true.
You know, throw your money into the ether and hope that everything works out okay. There's this level of, I just did something and I just saw this kid smile and I just made their day.
Yeah, it's so fun. So as we said in last episode, you've got like a week left to read Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. That's our June book for our summer reading list, #ReadSolvers. If you're reading that and you want to send us your thoughts so that we could include them possibly in a mini episode about the book, do that by June 30th, anywhere you can contact us. Just a reminder, our July book is After the Eclipse by Sarah Perry, and then our August book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And thank you for reading with us.
And each month's book you have till the end of that month to give us your comments.
Yeah, and then we'll make an episode about it and put it out. And don't listen until you've read it.
Yeah.
It will contain spoilies. And we have some patrons to shout out.
Yes, thank you.
True sweeties. So Nathan G, Kimberly C, Lindsay K, Kate P, Amanda W, Lauren R, Patricia W, Diane L, Melissa, Gabriella V, Janine, and Christopher F. Thank you all so much. We hope you are enjoying your short stacks and THDIs and 50 states.
And you got some goodies coming, honey.
Yes, goodies are coming your way. Thank you so, so much.
You guys
And
are
the
the
Slack
best.
channel is getting fun too.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, yes. Patrons, if you're having a hard time getting on Slack, just let us know because now we're having super fun conversations.
Yes.
Oh, there's a question of the day.
Do it. Answer it.
If you want to become a patron and get shouted out on the show, you can go to patreon.com/resolvemysteriespodcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. You're the best.
Thank you.
So many burritos before recording. Perfect.
Okay, so this episode, our first segment,
Is the unexplained death of Lisa Marie Kimmel.
and this is Eliza, and it's a mysterious legend, but really it's a treasure segment, The Lost Dutchman Mine.
And then I have a missing persons case, the case of Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moate.
Nice, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, Lisa Marie Kimmel.
Okay. So this is segment 1, and it is the unexplained death of Lisa Marie Kimmel. March 26, 1988, on a little-used suspension bridge outside Casper, Wyoming, residents reported seeing unexplained lights. And that was weird to them because not a lot of people use this bridge. Police theorized that an unknown assailant brought his victim, an 18-year-old girl, to the bridge. He stabbed her multiple times and then threw her into the cold waters of the North Platte River. The victim is identified as Lisa Marie Kimmel from Billings, Montana. She'd been sexually assaulted before being killed, quote, in a manner that suggested some kind of bizarre torture.
Ugh, God.
Lisa was last seen the night of March 25th, and police believe she was killed only a few hours later in the early hours of March 26th. Stack says what complicates the investigation is that nearly 1,000 people claim they saw Lisa Marie Kimmel or her car during a week when police believe she was already dead. Lisa Kimmel was an 18-year-old woman who managed an Arby's in Denver, Colorado. March 25th, she left town to go to Cody, Wyoming to visit her boyfriend. Stack says Lisa's car, a black 1988 Honda CRX SI, carried the spunky license plate Lil Miss. So L-A-L Miss. Ed Jarek, Lisa's friend, in the caption, even though Stack already told us she was going to see her boyfriend.
Yeah, weird.
I really don't understand.
Huh.
Yeah. He says the plan was that Lisa would leave Denver sometime after work to get to Cody late that evening to see Ed. He says he talked to her around 4:30, and she said she'd be leaving in about half an hour, thinking she'd get in around midnight. So it's a long-ass drive. Denver is kind of northern central Colorado. Cody is northern Wyoming. So Lisa planned to drive to Casper, Wyoming, which is kind of in between the two locations. So I don't know if she was like planning to make a stop there, but that was like a point in her drive. And then she'd drive to Ed Jarek's house in Cody. After that, she planned to go on to Billings, Montana to visit her parents. The trip to Cody should have taken 8 or 9 hours, so she was expected to arrive at Ed's house late Friday night. But by 7 on Saturday morning, she still hadn't shown up. Stack says that Ed called the highway patrols in 3 different states. And Ed was kind of weird in the interviews.
He looked down a lot. He didn't really make eye contact. And at first I was like, is this guy guilty of something? But
Same.
Yeah.
He was very
Maybe he was
kind of
nervous.
nonchalant about all of it. I don't know. 2 days later, the highway patrol reported that they had pulled Lisa over for speeding 60 miles south of Casper on March 25th, the night she disappeared, at about 9 p.m. It was 4 hours after she'd left Denver, so she would have been right on schedule, if that's where she was when she was pulled over. Patrolman Alan Lesko had pulled over Lisa's car because she was going 88 miles an hour. He describes that she looked well kept, driving a nice car, and the kind of person you'd like to have for a daughter. So in the reenactment, he's very, very nice to her. He says that he clocked her at 88 miles per hour and asks her if there's a reason for the speeding. She says that she's trying to hurry to Billings because she has a friend who's going in for surgery.
which is not true, right?
Which is not true.
Come on. So she was lying. You've never been pulled over and been like, my mom's in the hospital, I gotta go?
It's just weird that because on UM they didn't say.
No,
why.
they didn't.
They didn't say anything about it.
Well,
Exactly.
because they didn't want her to look like she was lying to a cop. But who hasn't lied to a cop to get a fucking
guess.
speeding ticket?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot.
of lying.
Yes. And crying.
Stack says that this is the last for sure known sighting of Lisa. Her signature on the citation and a routine voice recording that was made by the officer both verify that this was for sure Lisa Marie that stopped in the car that night. So,
Oh, that's interesting. There was a voice recording.
yeah.
didn't know
And I wondered for a second if that was what was played on UM because they didn't show the girl in the reenactment. But I feel like they would have told us if that was the actual recording.
And what did police officers have recording devices on them?
They must have.
Yeah.
That
That's
is,
weird.
I didn't know
The
that.
first body cam.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would imagine they played it for her family or something, and they were like, yep, that's her voice.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So Sheila Kimmel, Lisa's mom, says, as the week went on, we realized the gravity of the situation. And she is like holding back tears in this interview, and we don't see that often, or at least we
Yes.
haven't so far.
Yes,
Seen like a truly emotional interview like this.
totally, and I can't believe more of them are not like this.
I think probably the producers are like, keep your cool and communicate your information.
Right. So she says, we knew that the outlook was looking a little grim, but even with that, even if the outcome wasn't as we'd hoped, we still needed to find her.
Which, so sad.
I know. April 2nd, a week after she disappeared, Greg Bradford, who was just a guy who was out fishing, discovered a body in the river. He had heard that a young girl was missing in the area, so he realized that it must be her. Sheriff Ron Ketchum of Natrona County Sheriff's Department says they went out and the physical description matched Lisa, but at that point, because of the condition of the body, they weren't sure until they could pull her out of the water. He says they have a hard time figuring out whether the body was put there the 25th or the 26th because the body didn't show any signs of decomposition because the water was so cold.
Oh.
Yeah, so it just basically like kept her refrigerated. Yeah. He explains that Lisa's body was found with stab wounds. She had been sexually assaulted, and she was found nearly nude. He says, quote, "They made stab wounds in such a manner that we feel are unique, and I can't tell you how they were done to the body, but it would lead to the appearance that somebody took their time doing this."
I don't even understand what that means, man.
I'll tell you. So, and I was just thinking about this. Like, I hate murder stories, always, of course, but I always think about how much better it is to just be shot or,
Sure.
you know, have a quick death than it is for the people who have this, like, dragged out, painful, horrendous experience.
Yeah. I was just listening to True Crime Garage, and I think the captain was saying, always fight. Always fight.
Yes.
Because they're going to kill you.
Even if they tell you they're
Even
not.
if they tell
Yep.
you that if you remain calm, they're going to let you go.
Right.
And I thought that that was really compelling information because when I was little, my mother would say, if someone grabs you, scream
Yes.
and kick and
Yep.
thrash.
Mine
And she's
too.
like, no matter what they say,
Yep.
fight them, fight them. And he said, at least you will know in those last moments, however terrifying they are, that you did everything that you could. They're
And
never going to
you
let
may
you
end
go.
up leaving evidence.
Yep.
Yes.
You'll leave evidence. You might get
Exactly.
away. Like,
under your fingernails.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
about that all the time now that I've heard so many about even old cases where they were able to
Yes.
extract DNA from under the fingernails. Like, at least scratch them, give them a good scratch.
Or bite them.
There was
your
a-
teeth impressions.
There was
like
a,
all of it.
a forensic files from years and years ago when I first started getting into true crime, and the girl bit the inside of the window, the plastic rubber part.
yes, I've heard about that too.
It was a forensic
not
file.
bodies, but like
Yes, and they
Yes.
used that years later when he was finally caught for murdering someone else. He was a long haul trucker.
Yes.
Her bite imprint from the side of the window.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And remember that one of the girl who like tucked something under a mattress or a couch?
Yes.
Because she was like, if I escape, I want to be able to prove that
Prove that
I
I
was
was
here.
there.
Well, and I think the guy kept saying like, they're never going to believe
never
you.
gonna believe
They're never
you.
going to believe you.
the ones who get away, not that the others who didn't get away didn't fight, but like they got away because they fought. They
Yes.
didn't get away because they
Oh,
sat
I can't wait.
quietly.
You guys are leading up to something that I have.
Awesome.
So Ketchum says it's hard to understand why someone would do something like that to another human being. Of course, police searched the area where Lisa was found. On an old bridge a quarter-mile away, they found blood matching Lisa's blood type.
Is this the same
I-
one they saw the lights on? Or
Yes.
here?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to stop being surprised about the fact that for so long we had to go based on blood type.
That's it.
Only. It's crazy. So that was all they had, but you know, they were like,
It's telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so police thought that the murderer may be a local because it was an kind of inaccessible bridge that hardly anyone used. So they would have to kind of know about it. Based on the sighting of the lights on the bridge that night and the other evidence they found, police think that the time of Lisa's murder was in the early morning of Saturday, March 26, about 5 hours after she was stopped for speeding. Stack says that, strangely, over the next 7 days, hundreds of sightings of Lisa and her car, many of them involving an unknown male companion, were reported. Ketchum explains that up until the date he's doing his UM interview, they've had over 1,000 sightings reported. A lot
What
of them
in the
from law
world?
enforcement officers. But he says there's no pattern to the sightings, meaning like they're not all leading in one direction
Right.
or like...
Yeah, he said that they were like bouncing from state to state, and it would have been
Yep.
impossible.
He said they go south, west, north, everywhere. He says they were deluged with reports to the point that they thought they had gone to Canada, and then they started getting reports of sightings in Canada.
Sorry, where is her car when... Do we know where her car is when she's found in the water?
No.
No.
Okay. Couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And
Is the car part of the sightings?
Yes.
The little miss?
Yes.
yes.
What in
And
the
so,
world?
I mean, that is like really significant. How many people have that
a
license
vanity plate being part of this case is huge.
Yeah.
So Stack says composites were created of at least 17 men, but they all look so different that they could not even justify making a wanted poster. And they pan through some of these on and they're all just totally different lengths of hair, different types of faces. Like, it's like fucking Son of Sam.
Yeah.
There were 3 sightings the police found to be the most reliable, reported on the 26th and 27th of March. But these are still after the police believe Lisa had already been killed.
But she was in a cold river. So could that have like sort of screwed up time of death?
Maybe. The first sighting was in Casper, 20 minutes from where Lisa's body was found. The other 2 sightings were in Buffalo, Wyoming, 2 hours drive away. No one reported in the sightings that Lisa appeared to be looking for help. The 3 sightings of Lisa and her car all for sure involve the car. Each person remembered a Montana license plate reading Lil Miss.
Sorry, yeah.
And like one lady had even like, she's like, I remembered it because my
Yes.
roommate's cat was named
yeah.
that.
I
Like,
remember this now.
you know, it's not, she's just, they're trying to paint this picture. It's not people being like, oh, I think I saw that. Like, it was
And
people
one of
who
them
were
was
like, I remember this.
I saw this Montana plate. I'm from Montana. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I saw Little Miss. I drove up and I had to see who was driving that car or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So all 3 sightings report the girl wearing different clothing. However, one of the sightings reported seeing a mysterious man with her. Stack says if the 3 sightings are reliable, they raise some disturbing questions. Was Lisa killed as the police think she was during the early hours of March 26th? If she was, who was seen driving Lisa's car in Casper and Buffalo? If Lisa was not killed on the 26th, why was she in Buffalo more than 2 hours off the course of her planned journey? And if she was in jeopardy, why did she not signal for help when she was sighted?
Maybe it wasn't Lisa. Maybe it was like a female companion of the murderer.
That's kind of more what I lean towards. I don't think it was her. So then we have the update screen. And did you guys notice that it was so different?
No.
It's obviously from years and years later because it had like all these graphics behind it and stuff.
So like Dennis Farina years swapped
so,
in.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
The little update, I'm not going to read to you now because
Okay.
I'll just tell the story.
And I don't remember it, so that's perfect.
Great. So this case also became known as the Lil Miss murder. Because everyone knew about this license plate. Everyone was looking for it, reporting it. Obviously, they said thousands of people.
And like, not the person. If you're going to do that, don't do it to someone who has a vanity plate. Don't do it at all. But like,
It makes you
that
wanna,
really
like-
makes it catchy for the news,
Yeah.
and it gives people something to look for. And there were witnesses who specifically remember that
Yeah.
plate, and they wouldn't if it were just a random one.
Right.
I think we should all get vanity plates.
We should all have distinctive cars.
Yes.
So investigators followed tons of leads and received tons and tons of tips throughout the years that never led anywhere. There was a fund started, the Lisa Kimmel Memorial Fund, that was to be used as reward money for anyone who could bring forward information that would lead to the arrest of Kimmel's murderer. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a different story.
Okay.
In September of 1997, a woman named Shannon Breeden and her husband Scott and their 5-month-old son Cody were driving from Michigan to Washington when their van broke down. They tried to get someone to stop and help them, but weren't able to, so they spent the night in the van. By the next morning, they started running out of water, so they were kind of panicking.
Whoa.
That morning, a man pulled up in a van. He was concerned for them and offered them a ride to Rock Springs where they could get help. Obviously, they had spent the entire night out there without water. They accepted the ride at around 9 a.m. Breeden immediately felt weird about the man, but she talked herself out of it, thinking to herself, I'm a hippie mom, and I'm just overreacting.
You would also tell yourself, some predator is not going to go after a family with a baby. That's just annoying.
Right.
It's like it's harder to deal with a crying.
It's harder to deal with 2 people, for sure.
And then it's 3 because of a baby.
Yeah. After a bit of driving, the man pulled over so that he could go to the bathroom. When the man came back, he asked Breeden if she could drive because he wanted to rest. She agreed and got in the driver's seat. And Scott had already been in the front seat holding the baby in the passenger seat.
No.
The man got in the back of the van and stretched out on a bed he had back there. Red flag. I don't like that at all.
Bed in a van. No.
No.
Breeden drove for only a little bit when something caught her eye. She turned around and the man was holding a rifle on her husband and her baby.
Oh my God.
He told her to drive down a dirt road that led off the highway.
No.
Breeden said when she saw nothing but desert ahead, she thought, if I'm going down here. Thinking quickly, Breeden accelerated and turned the van in a quick circle, trying to knock the rifle out of the man's hands. So she like did a quick
girl.
break thing to like whip the van around.
Fucking queen. I love it.
Oh, just you wait.
Oh my God.
I fucking love this story.
Oh, awesome.
He lunged forward and tried to take the keys out of the ignition. Scott jumped out of the car with the baby, and Breeden also jumped out, landing in the dirt and scrambling towards her husband. The man jumped on her, and they went down to the ground. And the gun fell out of the man's reach, but he quickly grabbed a knife from underneath the passenger seat.
Ew.
It's like a rolling
It's a
rape
murder
kit.
Breeden jumps on his back, but he got her back onto the ground and put the knife to her ribs. Right as he's doing this, her husband grabs the man's arm, literally preventing him from stabbing her.
Oh my God. Oh
And
my
he's
God.
holding the baby.
Where's the
think that
baby?
he must have set the baby down because this is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, just imagine a baby screaming the
No,
entire
I can't.
time.
Probably.
Oh, definitely.
The man said, "Let go or I'll kill her." Scott reached around and grabbed the rifle with his other hand,
Yes.
hitting the man over the head with it, breaking the butt of the gun.
Yes, buddy.
So he knocks the man to the ground. He starts...
Shoot him.
I know, this is crazy.
Kill him.
He started to get up, but Scott lunged at him, trying to keep the knife away from his wife.
Oh my God.
The two got into a tangle, and he ends up stabbing the man in the chest. So this slows the man down just enough for Breeden to grab the rifle and fire a shot into the ground. The man said, "If you fire that again, it will blow up and kill you."
What?
And she doesn't know anything about guns, so she believes him. She hands the knife over to her husband, who just starts beating the shit out of the man with the fucking rifle. So he just keeps beating him until he gives up.
I love it.
Breeden and her husband grab their baby, jump into the van, and drive to a maintenance area where they call for help.
Oh my God.
Fucking
Isn't that crazy?
victory. I love it.
Oh my God.
That's the PTSD they must have. Oh my God.
Oh my
Seriously.
God. At least they're not dead. They can go to
know,
therapy.
but-
They
I
can't come back to
cannot
life.
believe that all three of them came out of
That
this
is awful.
unharmed.
Oh my God.
So they call for help. Officers find the man in the desert bleeding and couldn't tell at first if he was the attacker or the victim because of how badly he was
he
injured.
turned into the victim,
Yep.
bitch.
Sorry.
So the Breedens, yes, were traumatized, terrified, messed up, but physically unharmed. The man who attacked the Breedens was named Dale Eaton. He actually was very quick to confess, but gave a puzzling story to Sweetwater County Chief Deputy Attorney Anthony Howard. Quote, "It was really odd," Howard said. "Eaton's statement all the way through was that he had cancer or a life-threatening disease, and he wanted to commit suicide but didn't have the guts. He was hoping they would kill him. Suicide by stranger."
Oh my God.
Stop. Oh my God, that made me so mad.
Do you think that's true?
No.
He's making that up.
He was trying to find a way he could get out of this insane situation that two people witnessed and fought for their lives for. It's insane.
Gross.
Oh.
I hate him. Get him out of here. Kill him.
So Eaton was convicted of felony aggravated assault for the attack. He was sentenced to spend up to a year at Casper Pre-Release Center, but he walked away from the facility
No.
in 1998. Like
Up to a year.
he broke
That's
out.
it. Attempted murder of 3 people.
What state is this?
He was only convicted of aggravated assault.
I mean, that's not aggravated assault. He was clearly trying to murder these people.
Yeah.
It's also kidnapping. He told her to drive to a location.
I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Later that year, Eaton was arrested and subsequently sent to federal prison on a weapons charge. In the summer of 2002, investigators researching cold cases came across Lisa Kimmel's rape kit, and a DNA profile was developed from the seminal evidence. The CODIS database matched the DNA to Dale Wayne Eaton, 57, of Moneta, Wyoming.
Fucker.
Eaton's DNA profile was placed in the CODIS database in 1998 after he was arrested for the attack on the Breedens. So, work on the case continues. Eaton's next-door neighbors, after this information comes out, also reported to investigators that they had seen him digging a very large hole on his property, which was located about an hour's drive from where Kimmel was last seen alive. The site was excavated, and Kimmel's Honda CRX was unearthed,
Holy
still
shit.
bearing her distinctive Lil Miss license plate.
Whoa, the whole fucking car?
He buried the whole fucking car.
Fuck. That's crazy.
I couldn't find it again, but there was a quote from his son as well that was like, "Yeah, I had to help him dig a really big hole back there."
But he didn't know why.
He probably thought he was getting a pool.
What the fuck?
Isn't that insane?
Wait. So then all these other people that distinctly remember the little miss, it must have been a different state vanity plate?
Well, who knows how long he took to bury the car.
Oh, like he was tooling around in it or something?
I don't
Or
know.
he clearly had a history of taking people hostage in their car and making them drive. So maybe the police are wrong about the timeline of when she died, and they did see Eaton in the passenger seat with her.
It's possible. Or like you said, that it's somebody else
a female
that was with
accomplice.
him. But I do think it was her car.
It had to be her car. Who's got Lil Miss?
Yeah.
Even in a different state, what are the chances they would see that?
Yeah. All the sightings are
A different
still
state's plate, I mean.
very weird.
I mean, 100, 1,000, I don't know if I believe
Yeah, I
it's
don't
that
think I
many.
do
Of
either.
course, they're not all going to be sightings of her.
Yeah,
but-
and they said that 3 were credible, and I believe that those 3 were credible. So they're...
and only one had a man in it, and it could be him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eaton was subsequently charged with 8 crimes connected to the Kimmel case, including first-degree premeditated murder, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated robbery, first-degree sexual assault, and second-degree sexual assault. While in prison, a fellow inmate reported that Eaton had also confessed the crime to him. April 17, 2003, Natrona County District Attorney Kevin Meenan files charges against Eaton, including first-degree and premeditated murder. March 17, 2004, after a 2-week trial, a jury in Casper convicts Eaton on all charges. March 20th, 2004, the same jury returns a unanimous verdict of a death penalty sentence for Eaton. They decided this after evidence showed that Kimmel was bound and raped repeatedly over several days before she was bludgeoned and stabbed 6 times.
driving around in the car with her.
So then the police were wrong about her timeline.
But that's okay. But
They were wrong about time of death.
time of deth, but she was in the cold water, so they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like that
and maybe
preserves
they
a
would know.
body.
Yeah.
So, and I do think probably the blood was left the night she was abducted, but that wasn't
Several
where she was
days.
killed.
Ah, it's fucking nightmarish.
Yeah, and I'll give you more on.
Were her parents still alive? Or her mom?
Oh, yeah. April 8th, 2004, Kimmel's parents are awarded a $5 million civil judgment against Eaton for a wrongful death complaint.
That he has to pay it?
He's not going to pay it.
Oh my God.
May 20th, 2004, a Natrona County judge signs a death warrant for Eaton and sets execution for June 25th. January 10th, 2005, the Wyoming Public Defender's Office files its first appeal, arguing, among other things, that Eaton received inadequate defense counsel.
Oh, God.
Judge David Park denies the appeal 6 months later. So Eaton's court-appointed attorneys argued at the trial that prosecutors had overcharged Eaton and said he did not deserve the death penalty. A psychiatrist called by the defense during the penalty phase of the trial described Eaton's violent and troubled childhood. Eaton was portrayed by the psychiatrist as a destitute drifter with few friends. The psychiatrist also related his conversation with Eaton about Kimmel's death. Eaton said he found Kimmel on his property in Moate and thought she was trying to rob him.
Oh my God, stop lying.
Yeah.
Like when you're such a fucking scumbag and you've done all of this terrible shit and there are all these people there to say it, stop lying.
Yeah, stop.
It is so egregious and so unfair. Like,
Yeah.
also-
quit being a dick bitch and just fucking fess up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So in this same thing where he says she was trying to rob him, he says he took the young woman to a bus he used as living quarters where he placed her in handcuffs and raped her over several days.
Yeah, because whenever someone's trying to rob me, that's my first reaction.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Like, get the fuck out of here. Just.
Oh my God, I hate him.
I hate
Then-
him so much.
Eaton says he killed Kimmel and dumped her body in the river so that she could be returned to family in Billings in time for Easter.
What?
That's-
That is.
I'm sorry. That's not like the quickest way to get her body back to her family.
That's the most
He's
horrible.
So what a monster.
He must have killed other people. It couldn't have just been her.
July 18th, 2005, on what would have been Kimmel's 36th birthday, Eaton's property was awarded to Kimmel's parents after a wrongful death lawsuit, and the buildings were burned to the
I was
ground.
going to say burn it down.
Yep.
Yes.
For her birthday, they literally
Fucking burnt it down.
torched his place.
I love that.
July 13th, 2006, a motion for a new trial based on Eaton's competency is denied. At a hearing 2 months later, Eaton's attorneys argue about his representation at trial and jury instructions.
Stop fighting it.
Just deal with it.
August 18th, 2008, the Wyoming Supreme Court denies an appeal for a new trial. August 13th, 2008, a Natrona County judge sets Eaton's execution date for December 19th. 1 month later, the Wyoming Supreme Court delays Eaton's execution. February 25th, 2009, the U.S. Supreme Court refuses to hear one of Eaton's appeals filed in December 2008. 2 weeks later, the Wyoming Supreme Court orders the execution to remain on hold. June 3rd, 2009, Eaton attorney Michael Reese files another appeal, arguing, among other things, that Wyoming's death penalty is cruel and unusual punishment. The district court accepted the prosecution's response, and the state Supreme Court later declined to review. December 15th, 2009, Natrona County District Court Judge David Park set a new execution date for Eaton, February 12th, 2010. It is later stayed on appeal. August 13th, 2010, Eaton files an appeal in federal court, focusing mostly on inadequate representation at the trial. December 18th, 2011, Eaton's appeal is accepted by the federal court, halting his execution.
What a dick bitch.
May 3rd, 2012, a federal judge allows Eaton's appeal to continue in federal court. Hearings focused on Eaton's competence and his representation are held through July and August 2013.
Oh my God, her poor family.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Talk about cruel and unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is it so cruel? Are they going to rape him for 7 days?
Yeah.
November 20th, 2014, U.S. District Judge Alan B. Johnson issues a 375-page ruling vacating Eaton's death sentence and ordering a new sentencing hearing in Natrona County District Court. He allows prosecutors 120 days to appeal his ruling. So it was in 2004 that criminal profilers began to conclude that Eaton may be a serial killer.
You think? I mean, this does not happen twice like that.
Experts close to the case have said the degree of criminal sophistication the killer displayed in disposing of Kimmel's body and the removal of evidence such as ligatures raised that possibility. A coroner's examination of Kimmel concluded that she had, quote, suffered 6 separate stab wounds, 5 of which were arranged in a circle in the chest of Lisa Kimmel, with a sixth inflicted in the mid-upper abdomen. Each wound, the coroner said, could have been fatal, and each avoided striking a rib.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, it was very, it wasn't like stab, stab, stab.
No, it was calculated and specific.
Yeah. An 8-page confidential analysis prepared by FBI Supervisory Special Agent Ronald P. Walker at the FBI Academy in Quantico also led itself to speculation that Kimmel's attacker was a serial killer. Based on information given to the FBI by the Natrona County Sheriff's Office, the medical examiner's report said a victimology report and a victimology describing Kimmel's personality. Walker concluded that it is significant that the assailant removed a ligature prior to disposing of the victim's body. This assailant is sufficiently sophisticated to realize the evidentiary value of such items. So he knew that by leaving her ligatures on, they would probably find him.
Yeah.
Typical serial killers are often portrayed as having a tendency to take souvenirs as proof of their deed. They clip news articles, take the victim's driver's licenses, or keep a lock of hair. In Kimmel's case, investigators have yet to recover Kimmel's purse or driver's license, the clothes she was wearing when she left her job in Denver, and a few pieces of her jewelry, court documents say. So there are some possibly related murders. Kimmel's murder may have been part of a pattern of serial murders known as the Great Basin Murders, which took place between 1983 and 1996 in Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado.
Wow.
And you can obviously read more about those if you would like to. Amy Rowe Bechtel is among the Great Basin Killer's potential victims and is strongly believed that Eaton may have killed her as well.
But he hasn't confessed to any others.
He's not confessing to even the ones that he clearly did.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's still. Okay, sorry, keep going.
This case has been in the media. Both Kimmel's and Bechtel's cases were profiled on Unsolved Mysteries and Nightmare Next Door. True crime author Robert Scott wrote a book called Rivers of Blood that detail Eaton's life and crimes, including the disappearance and murder of Lisa Kimmel. This case was also profiled on an episode of On the Case with Paula Zahn. Lisa Marie's mom, Sheila, actually wrote a book in 2013 with Kay Carpenter called The Murder of Lil Miss. Aww. Writing and publishing The Murder of Lil Miss wasn't about healing, Kimmel said. It was about sharing her family's journey through tragedy. And it was an attempt to say thank you, she said, to all the people who knew Lisa and still mourn her death, and to those who never met Lisa but showed kindness to the Kimmels in their loss. Sheila's husband, Ron, said he hopes the book answers any lingering questions about their family and how they coped with their daughter's death. Quote, "We're not writers," he said. "We just happen to be a family that lived through a tragedy that people want to know about. The people who have followed this all these years deserve to know everything there is to know about it." So I'll link to an article in our show notes that is all about Sheila and her process of writing this book. It's really interesting because, for example, she did not want to include a single detail about Eaton.
Because it wasn't about him.
Yeah, they were like wanting to tell his backstory and his life. And
She's
she
like,
was like,
"Fuck him."
No. And like, they did end up convincing her to include some just for context.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, I don't want there to be anything about him.
Good for her.
So the state is again seeking the death penalty. Eaton is currently awaiting a new sentencing hearing on death row. He is currently the only inmate on Wyoming's death row.
Yeah, man. Death penalty is just a complicated fucking...
Yeah.
It's such a complicated issue, you
Like,
know?
yeah, like think about how long.
It's so rough for
Since
the
this has
families,
happened.
and it's so, I don't know. You can just appeal forever, and it depends on who's in office, and it's just like,
very
fuck.
political.
Yeah.
So that's
Damn,
him.
girl. What's his son? Is his son like, holy shit, my dad's a monster?
I didn't really
He probably knew his dad was a monster.
look
I have a
into the son,
feeling.
but I would imagine by that quote that he was like,
I'm sure
Oh, yeah, I
he
helped
wasn't
with
father
that.
of the year,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, I hate him.
James Renner, the guy that wrote the Amy Mihaljevic
Yeah.
book, he also, I think, has a podcast because apparently the man doesn't sleep and he's a genius. And his Twitter is crime philosophy. And he posts people who have been caught, like cold case. And every picture is some old guy who looks so stunned
Yeah.
that he got caught. To me, it makes me so happy every time I see one of those like dazed old dudes like
Oh, yeah.
staring into a camera in an orange jumpsuit like, I can't believe that I got caught for this.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like
know.
like keep them coming.
Seriously.
Keep them coming. Like send your shit into Ancestry, send your shit
Yes.
like keep them coming cuz there are so many out there.
Yep.
And every single one of these guys is like in their late 60s to 70s and they're going to be dead soon.
Yep.
So they might as well spend their last days on earth in jail
Yeah.
or in extreme discomfort the way they put their victims.
Agree.
God.
Or rolling
You know?
into court in a wheelchair like
Yeah,
fucking GSK.
I don't
Yeah.
give a shit what condition you're in.
Nope.
You're caught. You're fucking busted. You
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Wow, KB.
That was
good.
awesome.
Good
Wasn't the Breeden story was total?
Oh my God.
A tiny little paragraph about like an abduction, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And I had to look for it.
And if
I was
that
like,
hadn't
"Oh my
happened to them, they
God."
wouldn't have had his DNA.
Nope.
Right?
Because
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't have taken it on the weapons charge
Yeah.
later.
And that is not, she is not the only girl that he murdered on the side of the road. There's
Oh,
no
no.
way. There's no
Absolutely
way.
not. If he was going to abduct an entire
Family?
family,
Oh, yeah.
he for sure abducted many girls.
Many young girls. Oh my God. Fuck that
I
guy.
hate him.
Awesome work, girl.
Thank
That was a great case.
Impressive. Okay. Treasure time.
Treasure time.
Come on a hunt.
It's been a while since a good treasure.
It's been a bit since a treasure. Okay, so this is the story of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine, which is in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona.
Yeah, that name was funny.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background on that. But UM, as they do, likes to just focus on one or two narratives, and there are so many others.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, if you haven't watched the segment, I'll just give a rundown of that and then go into some history even before that. And because you know what? A white man didn't discover this, obvi, like UM likes to say, and then give some super in-depth updates on that gold honey. Okay, so the Superstition Mountains in Arizona cover 160,000 acres of desolate, rugged terrain. And according to legend, somewhere hidden in these mountains lie the richest deposits of gold in America, which is also known as the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. Of course, the exact location of the mine remains a mystery. Supposedly, it was discovered by a German prospector named Jacob Waltz in 1876. Again, I will just say, of course, it was not discovered by him.
No. No.
Interesting, though, that they call him he's the Dutchman because German is Deutsch land. So he's not Dutch, he's German. And today, the gold would be worth over $200 million if someone could just find it.
Wow.
In the episode, according to historian Tom Collinborn, and he comes up a lot, the Superstition Mountains were an unlikely place to strike it rich. Quote, Jacob Waltz was a student of mining and he knew what he was doing. The old-timers were very, very astute to the fact of geology. They knew what they were looking for. If you're going to go out in these mountains anywhere and look for gold, you really want to go places where it has been found. Duh. Superstitions would be an exception. You wouldn't go in there.
Oh.
And he talks about this, but what's unfortunate is that, like, since I did my research, I realized why he's saying that, and it's actually more mysterious. But if you don't do research on it, it's like, oh, okay, why wouldn't you go there? So it's kind of a bummer that UM wrote it the way they did. Mm-hmm. Waltz did, of course, go in the mountains, and apparently he found lots of gold. And then when he was 80 years old, he decided to hide his mine to protect it. So he only... If this is all true, he pulled out a little bit. But, of course, it's so much work to mine gold. So a lot of it was just hidden, and then he decided to hide it further. He did dig a hole 6 feet deep at the mine's entrance, and then he laid 2 rows of logs and topped them with dirt and stones. Waltz then bragged that you could drive a pack train over the entrance to the mine and never know it was there. What? I don't really know what that means.
Seems like he did that much work to cover it up.
Yeah. I'm just going to lay some sticks down and then maybe toss some dirt on it. So several months after Waltz closed up the mine, he got pneumonia and was taken to the home of his friend Julia Thomas. According to Clay Wurst, who's a member of the Superstition Mountain Historical Society, and they have this, they have this reenactment, but Waltz is on his deathbed, and he reveals to Julia Thomas that he knows where the mine is, he can tell them where it is, and he'll prove it, and he has gold from the mine stash under his bed. So we will
post under his bed.
Oh, and it's there. She pulls it out.
Yeah.
We'll post the picture of Julia rubbing her grubbies all over that gold. Quote, he said, "That's what I've been living on all these years." They took out the box, they opened it, and their comment was, "My God, that's rich." He said, "It's a vein." I was trying to look up what a vein is. It's just like, I don't know.
It was a little hard to follow, but...
Well, there's also a whole, you can find a gold mine by finding the vein, but it's not a vein like you would think. I was like, oh, it's like a line like our veins. It's not even like that. It goes deeper than that, and I don't care enough, so...
Okay.
Google it.
If you're a gold miner, you'll know what it is.
But what they were saying in the episode was it wasn't a pocket, it was a vein, so they were saying
there's more where that came from.
And it could be so spread out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said there's enough in sight to make millionaires out of 20 men in that day and age.
Or women.
No.
Mostly men.
Named us.
Unfortunately,
Give it to us.
no.
Oh, okay.
We're going to need a lot more Patreons if we're going to find that fucking gold.
We just take a week off to go gold hunting. Fund our
You guys can
gold
go.
hunting
I don't
trip.
want to go.
Eliza's like, that sounds too much like camping.
Yeah, you would definitely hate looking for this gold then, let me just tell you.
No, I would go the way rich people go to Burning Man. I would
You can't drive in this place, baby.
oh.
And you can't
It's
bring your drugs.
mountains.
All right, I'm totally out.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
I like helicoptering with ecstasy.
I hear it. Yep, Allison's here.
Allison's arrived.
A lot
here
of
in her
dust
chopper.
is kicking up. No, wait, that's powder.
She loves us so much, and she's ready to find that gold.
She's already found her gold. She's fine.
I'm like, who needs gold when we have love?
So, Jacob Waltz succumbs to his death. Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah.
Pneumonia gets him. It gets him good. And so he's told Julia Thomas, and he has also told a man named Reinhard Petrasch, and he's given them some clues to the mine's location.
They were pronouncing it Petrasch the whole time.
Okay, I don't know.
Which I loved.
Yeah, it could be that. But it's SCH, so I thought maybe it's more of a Petl. Some of the clues that Jacob Waltz gave was that he said, the setting sun shines into the entrance to my mind and glitters on the gold, so it must have faced to the west, the entrance.
It sounds like he had some
He's got his
ecstasy.
fever. He's ill. He might be fevered. He said, you take...
Might be fevered. I would fucking say so.
He said, you take the first gorge on the south side from the west end of the range. He said that you can see Weaver's Needle to the south from above my mine. So Julia and Petrache were so anxious to get in there that they went in midsummer when the mountains are like over 100 degrees. Oh. This is late 1800s. Blech. And it must have been terrible. So the Arizona Republican newspaper in 1892 posted an article that said, quote, a queer quest. Another, quote, lost mine being hunted for by a woman. That's the title. Aww. Mrs. E.W. Thomas, which this is Julia Thomas, I don't know why it's E.W., formerly of the Thomas's Ice Cream Parlor, is now in the Superstition Mountains engaged in a work usually deemed strange to a woman's sphere. So I just thought that was interesting. That's all I could find of it. So Julia invested everything she owned into the expedition, but returned penniless and never attempted to return to the mountains. Reinhard Petrache, who was also with her, continued to search for the next 50 years, and I'll give a little more information about him in a minute, but this is just all that tells us. When he realized he would never find it, he took his own life.
That is so sad.
It's very sad.
It's so sad for his greed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like that was all his life depended on. He had nothing else other than finding that money.
I know. So then we see Stack rub his grubbies on a lighter case that is said to be made from gold that a man named Walt Gassler had in his possession. And that gold apparently came from the Lost Dutchman mine. So
It was cool
lighter. Hopefully you didn't lose it like you did those glasses.
I was going to say, hopefully it wasn't evidence.
So almost 100 years later, a modern-day treasure hunter claimed that he had found the mine. His name was Walt Gassler, and this is whose lighter Stack has. Walt Gassler used clues that were handed down from Jacob's deathbed, and Gassler had spent most of his free time looking for the legendary mine because, as we will see, many, many, many white boys do that. But when his health began to fail, Walt contacted two other prospectors. One was Bob Corbin, who was then the Attorney General of Arizona. Bob says, quote, he wanted to get together with me so that we could perhaps go with him and continue looking for the mine and with his directions after he died. And he gave me his notes as well as a map as to where his camp was and where he believes the mine to be. So 2 months later, Gassler called Bob's partner, Tom Collinborn, who I mentioned in the beginning of the segment, who again is a local historian. And according to Collinborn, Gassler claimed that he had finally located the Dutchman's mine, and there's a reenactment of him calling and saying, I found it and I'm leaving right now and you can come if you can leave with me tomorrow morning. And Collinborn's like, I can't get away. And Walt Gassler's like, okay, well, then I'm going in by myself. So the next morning, Gassler's wife takes him to the trailhead and drops him off. And he says, I'll see you in 3 days. But that would be the last time that anyone would see Walt Gassler alive. So Walt hiked alone into the Superstitions. And 3 days later, his body was found by a ranch hand named Don Shade. And I don't know if you remember Don. I love him so much.
Oh, yes.
He says, quote,
Yeah.
I don't have a license to talk like a coroner. I wrote, same honey, but we do it anyways. He said, he looked like he'd been dead maybe 2 to 3 days. He looked to me like a nice little old man who looked to me like he found a nice place to give up the ghost.
I love it.
No.
And this guy is also a nice little old man.
Oh my God,
He's
I know.
very old. He should not be out there by himself either. Neither of them should.
And I also love the term give up the ghost.
I
Yeah.
know, you never hear it. I love
Yeah.
it. An autopsy proved that Walt Gassler had died of a heart attack. 1 month after Walt's death, Tom Collinborn had a surprising visitor. He said, quote, he said he was Roland Gassler, Walt Gassler's son. And he says, well, you know, my dad found the lost Dutchman in the Superstitions, and he got out this gold and showed it to me. It looked very similar to the gold that allegedly came out of the lost Dutchman mine. This man, saying he's Roland Gassler, wanted to use the map and notes in Tom's possession to retrace his father's steps. And of course, Tom obliged and gave him the manuscripts. 2 months passed, and Tom never heard whether Roland's search was successful. And then one night, he's giving a lecture, and he's approached by a man who says, "My name is Roland Gassler.
So crazy.
Walt Gassler was my father." Colin Bourne says, quote, "My jaw dropped 10 feet to the ground because it wasn't the same guy. I said, I ought to ask you for a driver's license or something." And he shows him the license, and it is Roland Gassler.
He's like, oh, no.
And he says, "You're the second Roland Gassler I've run into in the last couple months." But the first guy had gold, and this guy doesn't have gold.
What's easier to get, gold or a fake ID?
True. So the man showed Tom his ID, and of course he's Roland Gassler. It became pretty clear quickly that the first Roland Gassler was an imposter who only wanted Walt's map. But where did he get the gold ore sample? When Walt died, the sheriff's report listed a backpack among his belongings, but the real Roland Gassler never received it. So, he received the sheriff's report and all the things that should have gone home to the family after his body was recovered. Mm-hmm. But the backpack was not among those things, even though a backpack was something he had taken in with him. So Don Shade, our buddy, and the man who found Walt's body, also remembered seeing the backpack, and he noticed a stranger in the area that day. He said, quote, "There was another man in the area at the time. When Tom Colin Bourne later gave us a description of the man that came to him and showed him the gold," so the first guy, he said, "it jibbed up with the man that we saw in there." That's a word I'm going to use more now.
I have not heard
I only
that
heard
before.
cut of their jib, but not. What is
It
what is
jibbed up?
jib?
It looked
What
like
is
a
it?
jib. I don't know what I don't like that.
How can you jib up or like the cut of the
I don't
jib?
like the cut of the
Is it
jib. I
like-
don't like that.
Why are you grabbing your
My waddle?
bottle? What's happening? Karlin thinks it has
know.
something to do with turkey neck.
I definitely do. I just Google, what's a jib?
What's a jib waddle?
A bunch of dicks just show up. That's what happens whenever you Google something you truly
It's a
don't know
jib.
anything about.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
So that's basically the end of the segment. The Dutchman, Jacob Waltz, had left behind a trunk of ore, a list of clues, and a legend of lost treasure, which has captured the dreams of 3 generations. The Superstition Mountains have been reclassified as a federally owned wilderness area. Some believe that the fake Roland Gassler may have been in the mountains when Walt died and stole the backpack. If the mine were found today, which this is when it aired, by the fake Roland Gassler or anyone else, all the gold would belong to the government. I just wrote LOL. Why are we wasting our time?
Yeah.
So that is basically it for UM. Go
Did
ahead.
that-
What's a jib? You're the one worried about getting this one done.
No, I don't need to say it. But, well, it's a few different things, but the old-fashioned compliment, I like the cut of your jib, or I like the way you look, comes from nautical slang in which jib meant face.
Oh.
Oh, so the jibs
So
match.
like
up.
the face. But then him saying it jibbed up is
Yeah,
funny.
that I don't know.
That
I
doesn't
can't
make
answer for you.
Karlin's like, sorry, I'm not a thesaurus.
Okay. History. I'm not going to give you an update yet. We got to go back in time, y'all. Of course, the first to lay eyes on the mountain were the Apache Native Americans. Their knowledge of the terrain and treasure within it remained a secret for a very long time until, this is not a great quote, but it is true that the Spanish came because they were searching for gold because they were being threatened by people in Europe. So the king sent them to look for gold. And Spaniards arrived around 1540 and pressured the Apache Native Americans into yielding the secret of the region.
Pressured.
Yeah, because they had heard or knew that there was gold buried in the Arizona mountain range, the Superstition Mountains, or I'm guessing they called it Los Supersticiones, but I'm not positive. Los Montañas Supersticiones, maybe?
Yeah, sounds about right.
The Native Americans told them that the mountain contained gold, but they refused to aid the Spaniards in the search, and because they believed that the thunder god protected the area and would punish every intruder. So this went on for years and years, centuries, and then by 1845, the Spaniards could not help but admit that the place was definitely cursed and under the protection of someone or something. So between 1540 and 1845, countless Spaniard treasure hunters were discovered dead around the area of Superstition Mountains. However, the treasure hunters weren't just dead, their bodies were mutilated, and very often they were found decapitated.
Whoa.
So it wasn't clear what was happening, but I'm pretty sure that the Apache tribe were murdering them.
They're
like, stay off of our land, and we tried to warn you about our thunder.
They're
gods."
like,
our shit.
It's haunted.
And they don't even care about the gold. They're just like, stay out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we truly believe this thing. So a man named Bird Granger wrote that, quote, fact and fiction blend in the tales about the Lost Dutchman mine. So there are so many different accounts. In 1977, Granger identified 62 variants of the Lost Dutchman story. Some of the variations are minor and others are substantial. So famed Apache Geronimo is sometimes mentioned in relation to this story. In most variants of the story, the family of a man called Miguel Peralta discovered the mine later and began mining the gold there. Peralta and his family are from Mexico. And of course, New Mexico and Arizona were not part of the states until like 1912 or something. So this is still Mexican land at this time, or just like no one's land. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Native Americans' land, but it could be partial Mexico territory and then was won later by us, sadly. Okay.
USA.
Gross. Okay, so
I mean, it was always ours.
We just hadn't gotten there yet. It's called Manifest Destiny. Look it up.
well, we were really religiously persecuted in England. I don't know if you know.
We
that.
were like so religious that nobody liked us. We had to leave.
So Miguel Peralta and his family began mining there, and they were attacked or massacred by Apache Native Americans in about 1850 in the supposed Peralta Massacre. Okay, so then a little bit later, that's when Jacob Waltz, he says he discovers the mine. It's sad to me that it's named after him when there's all this history beforehand.
So many other people.
Well, so many things not in the episode, but apparently, were it not for the death of amateur explorer and treasure hunter Adolph Ruth, the story of the Lost Dutchman's mine would probably have been little more than a footnote in Arizona history as one of hundreds of, quote, lost mines rumored to be in the American West.
Go on.
Ruth disappeared while searching for the mine in the summer of 1931.
What?
Why would they not say this? His skull, with 2 holes in it, identified as bullet holes, obviously, was recovered about 6 months after he vanished, and the story made national news, thus sparking widespread interest in the Lost Dutchman's mine.
Why would they do this segment and leave out the coolest
know.
part?
So apparently, Ruth's son, Irwin C. Ruth, was said to have learned of the Peralta mine, so some do call it the Peralta mine, from a man called Pedro Gonzalez. According to the story, in about 1912, the son gave some legal aid to Gonzalez, saving him from almost certain imprisonment. And then in gratitude, Gonzalez told Irwin about the mine and said, like, you can go be paid by the earth and not me. Let me trade you this information. So he gave him some antique.
By the earth.
So he gave him some antique maps of the site, and because Gonzalez claimed to be descended from the Peralta family on his mother's side, so this is in his background. So then Irwin told his dad, who had a longstanding interest in lost mines, about this, and then Adolph Ruth spends his life looking for it. Earlier, Adolph Ruth, and I wonder if we're covering this one later, but this one came up a lot in my research. He had badly broken several bones while falling because he was looking for the Lost Peg Leg mine in California. That's another one that I've heard about.
I'm sure it's
He
gonna come
had
up eventually.
metal pins. I call not it. You're the next treasure. He had metal pins in his leg and used a cane to help him walk. And then he still went into the Lost Dutchman mine or Peralta mine or whatever we're calling it and did not come out.
How many mines are out there? Like, is this something we should be looking into?
Girl,
I mean,
no.
You just said you wanted a job where you made a lot of money.
I did. I do. And I don't want a job where I spend a lot of money and die of 130 degree heat.
Everybody seems to not return.
Yes. Also, women not allowed. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. They don't know who killed him, but clearly he was shot.
Maybe because he knew something or he found something.
Yes, either one. I don't know. Some other deaths that have been linked to the Superstition Mountains and looking for the mine. In the mid-1940s, the headless remains of prospector James A. Cravey were reportedly discovered in the mountains. He had allegedly disappeared after setting out to look for the mine. Another one.
What do they do with his head?
Oh, they put them on a stick.
Lord of the Flies.
That's some Walking Dead shit, baby.
No,
In the
that's
last
like
season.
a lot of things.
yeah.
Oh, man, but you did not see the last season of
Vikings,
Walking
all
Dead.
kinds of.
Yeah, but were their heads still alive on the stick, trying to bite you?
No, because we're talking about history and you're talking about The Walking Dead.
Okay. In his 1945 book about the Lost Dutchman mine, Thunder God's Gold, Barry Storm claimed to have narrowly escaped from a mysterious sniper he dubbed Mr. X.
Mr. X.
Storm further speculated that Adolf Ruth might have been a victim of the same sniper. In late 1961, George Conrad Shorty Mueller exalted to friends in the Phoenix area that he had found the mine. He claimed he needed help removing the gold from the cache and asked two friends to accompany him back into the area around Weaver's Needle. However, less than 2 weeks later, on January 1st, 1962, Shorty Mueller died of a heart attack. In late November 2009, Denver, Colorado resident, this one is really popular. Denver, Colorado resident Jesse Capin, who was 35, went missing in the Tonto National Forest. His campsite and car were found abandoned shortly afterward. He was known to have been obsessed with finding the mine for several years and had made previous trips to the area. Capin's body was found in November 2012, 3 years later, by a local search and rescue organization. It was wedged into a crevice. So the program Disappeared, I don't know what channel that's on, covered the case, mentioning others in the episode of The Dutchman's Curse. So this is in the book. This is translated from German because, of course, Jacob Waltz probably spoke German.
So they probably didn't even understand what he was saying.
Exactly. Something about Julia, whoever he told it to, and Petrash, who went in looking for it. Petrash's brother, who didn't mention, but he was apparently there too or just heard about it. He accused his brother of mishearing Jacob Waltz or writing things down wrong, and they never spoke again.
But he was German. Like, you're right. He was probably
Exactly.
speaking in German.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all
So-
that crazy shit he was saying where it seemed like he was tripping his face off, maybe he was like, make a left and then make a right.
So
Yeah.
this is the best, or maybe one of the best interpretations, but it's in German and then in English. I won't even attempt to read the German, obviously. So it is in those Salt River Mountains. I cross the Green River below the fort. I make an overnight camp in the Cottonwood Water Course. I cross the Salt River at the Rocky Shallow. I follow its ? To the south. They don't know. That's a big detail.
That
to leave
is a
out.
big question mark.
Leave the water at the spring. Follow the Indian trail that leads or leaves there. 3 kilometers from the spring, you find a tiny spire. Up there, you will find the Mexican camp. From my camp, there's a saddle. You will see a peak in the distance to the south with a hole. To the west, you will see another peak. My mine is to the north, but you cannot find it without me. The mine is well hidden from sight. I hid the mine like the Mexicans. The Mexicans camped above on high. I hid my tools above the saddle. Look for the spire. The Mexican used the spires as their markers. Or look for the rock points. The Mexicans used the rock points as their stopping place. A high mountain is to the east. A low valley lies to the west. I used 2 of the Mexicans' holes. I dug 2 of my own. None are within sight of each other. From the cave you will see all of them. Never return by the route you arrived. The Native Americans saw me there once. I had to leave my camp quickly. So that's what he gave them at the bedside. Okay, men, it is mostly men, are using those clues. And then there's these other clues too. The Peralta stones, named after that family, they maybe drew on them, wrote these clues on these stones. And they're actually, I think some are in the mine or in the mountains still, but there's also a Lost Dutchman mine museum you can go see them at. People who have studied it think that those stones are
Markers or something?
well, markers or they're red herrings.
Oh.
So people are either like, this is the answer lies here, or these need to be ignored and we need to look at these other clues.
Holy shit. This is
People
fun.
just wanting to fuck with people and do something like that.
Right. And they're really...
Because so many people believe and want to find this.
Yes. I found this book written by Jane Eppinga, Unsolved Arizona, A Puzzling History of Murder, Mayhem, and Mystery. She writes about this, the Lost Dutchman mine, but she also writes about Glenn and Bessie and the cold skeleton.
Yay!
Cold skeleton.
Yes. The Bible on the Last Dutchman gold mine, that one seems to have a lot more information about the case specifically. Okay, just last night, I found, if you have the History Channel, which I don't have cable, but I watched the first episode for free, and then it makes you log in for the rest of them. But there's a series of 6 episodes called Legend of the Superstition Mountains on the History Channel. It's done really well. I liked it. It was interesting. But it's basically focusing on one man, Wayne Tuttle, who has looked for it all of his life, and then he's joining up with these other people, and they're following these clues. One of the synopsises of the show says, with cursed mountains said to drive men mad and a hidden fortune of gold worth killing for, the treasure hunter's greatest danger may be the man at his side. Whoa. Trust at your own peril if you dare to tread into history's legend of the Superstition Mountains.
Wow.
If you want to send me your cable login, anyone? Anyone who's still paying for cable, I would take it
Anybody
and
out there
watch
that
it.
has cable?
Okay, so some current treasure hunters that I found. Ron Feldman, William Tuttle, who I mentioned in the History Channel show, and then there's Jeff Howlett. He claims he's found the mine. He's got a whole website about it. He's got all these clues, but he won't release all the clues to you because he doesn't want you to find it too. And everyone's like, just show us the money and then we'll believe that you found it.
Yeah.
He did write some things that were just interesting information about when you're looking for a mine, kind of like what we were talking about. So he said, you cannot stake a claim. If you do, the Park Service will take it over as a historical site. If you go to a television or film producer, you cannot show all your cards because you will give away the location before you have a commitment. Understand this, Captain Dave, someone he knows, and myself have worked with contracts for years. We know the turf. One producer already tried to pull a fast one on us.
I love it.
Wow.
It takes lots of time and money to be on site. We have flown from Columbus, Ohio on 4 separate trips. Plus, there is the cost of being there for weeks at a time. Duh. However, we are going back soon to further document our discovery. There are endless legal issues, plus contracts, non-disclosure agreements. It never ends. Also, when it comes to the Last Dutchman gold mine, after almost a century and a half, no one wants to take you seriously.
Really?
Unless you show all your cards, which you cannot do until after you have finished your on-site documentation. Keep in mind that the site is hanging off the side of a mountain, and because of landslides, it is almost impossible to explore.
Oh, but that'll make it easy. Once the land slides,
then the gold will just be out. Just wait.
Let's wait it out. Climate change.
You are crawling around on hands and knees while hanging over a cliff. This makes exploration time intensive, dangerous, and slow. Okay, that is all. There is so much more. I cannot even. Look up our show notes, read those books, watch that History Channel thing, send me your cable password.
Liza's like, do my job for me. I am over that. No, treasure segments are.
It's so long, and I don't want anyone coming after me being like, well, I'm stressed. I'm just stressed about it because there's so much more. Someone could do a whole podcast series on this.
This one's
gold
insane.
mine.
Someone else can do a whole podcast
It will not
series.
be me.
But we're not putting all our cards on the table until you.
Oh, of course not. Okay, that's it. Find your treasure. Goodbye.
Hope for a landslide and goodbye.
Okay, turn it off.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Hi there, I'm Logan.
And I'm Lindsay.
And we host the new podcast Folklore on the Rocks, where we talk about folklore and lesser-known creatures, cryptids, and monsters from around the world.
So when we say lesser known, we mainly mean that we won't be covering creatures like Bigfoot or Nessie or Chupacabra, just because they're discussed so often, and the world just has so many other awesome options to draw from.
Every 2 weeks, we will be diving deep into the legends and culture that surround a specific creature, and getting a little bit tipsy while we do so. But don't worry, we do our research sober.
On the weeks in between, we're going to be narrating and discussing folktales. Some will be historical folklore from the regions that our creatures are from, and some will be modern folklore, such as no-sleeps and creepypastas.
Ooh. You can find out more about us on our website, folkloreontherocks.com, on Facebook and Instagram at Folklore on the Rocks, on Twitter at Folklore Rocks. So grab a drink, join us, and come on, let's dig deep together.
Hi, I'm Jamie, host of Murderish. a true crime podcast that provides a 3D look at gripping murder cases from beginning to end. You'll get to know the victims and perpetrators, how their worlds collided, and what went down during trial. I also share some of my own personal experiences, like the time a stranger came into my bedroom at night. Yeah, that really happened, and I walk you through all the details of that terrifying night. Have you ever wanted to be a fly on the wall during a murder trial? You'll get that opportunity on Murderish, as I share my experience being a jury foreman on a first-degree murder trial. Search Murderish in your favorite podcatcher app, hit subscribe, and start binging. And remember, listening to this podcast doesn't make you a murderer. It just means you're murder-ish.
So I wanted to tell you guys about a podcast that's called Wait, What? It's a comedy podcast about anything and everything that will make you say, wait, what? Join Elaine and Paula every Friday as they discuss and make slightly inappropriate jokes about the paranormal, UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, and so much more.
You can find Wait What at www.waitwhat, and that what has 3 A's in it, podcast.com. Find them on Instagram at Wait What Podcast. And then their podcast is everywhere: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and you can also listen right on their website.
Segment 3, Missing Persons, the story of Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moate. So the reenactment begins with some creepy images of the Louisiana Bayou country. Stack says, quote, surrounded by human swampland, Lake Pontchartrain lies just west of New Orleans. I don't know what human swampland is, but it sounds...
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's gross. It's like what I think of when I think of a hot tub. It's like human, human swamp.
Gross.
It's like people soup, you know?
Ew!
I hate hot tubs. They're disgusting.
How dare you?
Oh, and everybody pees in it.
Everyone. And they're so small, and there's always too many people in
And
them.
the sperm can stay alive.
Oh my God.
So November 24th, 1956 at 9 a.m. on a, quote, chill Saturday morning, a local hunter and his son, quote, unintentionally surprise a pair of lovebirds in an isolated area known as Frainer Beach.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this reenactment. This sounds like, Dad, what are they doing?
Oh, I know.
I appreciate that Mr. Stack makes sure to say that they unintentionally surprise them. Like they had no
They're
plans.
not peeping Toms.
Yeah, to jump out and be like, boo, you guys fucking, you know.
Boo, you fucking.
So the boy says, quote, what are they doing, Daddy? And he says, never you mind. And it's super cute. Also, it's 9 a.m. and the couple is still alive. And I don't know who wants to hook up in a car at 9 a.m. Like that one guy from the other segment who only had morning trysts.
Yeah,
but
I didn't realize it was
yeah.
9 a.m.
yeah, hard pass for that. And then,
Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah, girl, get that morning D.
Oh my God.
So the couple goes back to making out, which I think is really funny. Like someone looks up, looks out the window. Oh no, she takes her shirt off and then she's like, whoa.
Oh, I know. That was kind of a scandalous little scene.
I know.
Yeah.
So the next day, on November 25th, the same hunter and his son walk by the car and see the man they saw yesterday dead of a shotgun wound in the front seat of the car, and the woman is nowhere to be seen. The victim was Thomas Hotard, a 46-year-old engineer from La Plaze, Louisiana. The authorities later determined the woman who was with him was 31-year-old Audrey Moate, and she is quintessential 1950s gorgeous.
She is truly gorgeous.
Girl
She's so
next door.
cute.
Oh my God. Her hair, everything.
Beautiful.
Even, well, you're going to get to it, but even when they called her Schlubby, I was like, she's adorable. I would die to look like that.
I know.
They call her Schlubby?
I'll get to
You'll
that.
get to it.
Then they say a divorced mother of 3, which I think is messed up because we know that Thomas was an engineer who was 46 and lived in La Plaze, and Audrey was 31 and a divorced mother of 3. Like
Yeah.
that qualifies
Yes.
her and who she is. Then Stack tells us that Audrey hasn't been seen in 32 years. Jack Dempsey, amazing name, in his amazing Louisiana accent, tells us that this was the largest case that had ever hit the area. He's a retired reporter from the Times-Picayune, and he says that everyone wanted to know where's, quote, the woman. Oh, and he has a lot of questions. Why did she disappear? Did they take her? Did they bury the body? Did they throw her in the lake?
Yeah, that was a weird interview.
And then so I was like, let me Google Lake Pontchartrain. So it's a brackish estuary located in southeastern Louisiana in the United States. It covers an area of 630 square miles.
Wow.
With an average depth of 12 to 14 feet with some shipping channels that are like dredged deeper. So that is a big lake.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a lake.
Yeah.
But it's a lake. It would be very hard to find someone if they were disposed of in Lake Pontchartrain.
Yeah.
But Jack Dempsey is full of questions, and I love him. I love everything about him. Decky Moate, Audrey Moate's daughter, tells us the month before this happened, her mother told her grandmother that, quote, if anything happens to me, take the kids and get as far away from here as possible, which I think is a little foreboding.
Yeah. It's
The-
always creepy when that happens.
The grandmother should have been like, okie dokie, but why?
Yeah. Can you tell me more?
Yeah. Decky questions why a 31-year-old woman in a, quote, environmentally crime-free area in 1956 would say this. Stack tells us that 3 decades ago, the story of Thomas and Audrey was the biggest, most sensational story in modern Louisiana history. And I couldn't find any listing of major crimes before 1956, so we're just going to have to agree with them.
Yeah.
He tells us that most of the people involved in the case are dead, but the mystery has passed on to the younger generations. An obit for Hotard called him a quiet, hardworking family man, active in the church and with the Boy Scouts. The title of the article, one of the articles I read is Death of Hotard is Shock to Wife. And I bet she loved that because she didn't love it.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. So.
And embarrassing for her.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Embarrassing for all parties involved.
Yeah.
Just like.
Totally.
Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moate met in 1952, and they worked for a chemical company. Audrey was recently divorced. She was 15 years younger than Hotard. The two had an interest in scouting and were often seen organizing the troop's activities. I guess she was in charge of Girl Scouts and he was in charge of Boy Scouts.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what scouting really meant back then, but that's what I'm thinking.
That must be.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Decky says that she was a woman way ahead of her time, a divorcee in 1956. She says she was very loving and giving and says that perhaps she was the best friend she ever had, which I think is super sweet. So Thomas Hotard was married, and he and Audrey would meet on Saturdays. For 2 years, they kept the same schedule. They would both tell their families they had to work. Something interesting, though, is that then they cut to Decky, and she says that he would picnic with her family, and he was there on her birthdays.
Right.
He taught her.
I didn't remember her saying that.
Yeah, he taught her how to take photos and use a darkroom. And she said she found out they were lovers when she read the newspapers.
Oh, right, because she said she knew they were friends.
Yeah, she thought they were friends because she was just a kid.
Yeah.
And like her dad wouldn't have cared or been suspicious because they were divorced.
Yeah, exactly.
So he could be around her.
Yeah.
She couldn't be around his family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would think.
Oh.
In the reenactment, they get in the car and they just like start making out immediately. Like he barely closes the door and they're just like, and then there's this weird, creepy song playing in the background. It's like a 19.
No.
The lyrics are not appropriate to what's happening.
I agree.
Oh, I don't
At
remember
first, I kind
that.
of liked it because it was different than most of the music they use, but then I was like,
Because they very rarely bought music that had lyrics that they had to pay the rights to. And that day that she was murdered was Audrey's birthday.
oh.
So when the hunter found the body, he went to Percy Herbe, the sheriff of St. John the Baptist Parish.
In Louisiana, it's parish is like a county kind of.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, parish is church related. He went to the sheriff of St. John the Baptist Parish. Herbe was first at the scene. Hotard had been killed with a 16-gauge shotgun at point-blank range, one shot through the side window. At first, he thought the missing woman had probably killed Hotard in a lover's spat, like for sure. She like had a 16-gauge shotgun with her. It was in her purse, her giant purse, and then she ran outside around the car.
In her vagina because she was naked.
Yeah. She was in a
Like,
slip
where would
and
she have
panties.
pulled that out of?
Yeah.
Come
I mean,
on.
I love him first being like, the lady did it, obviously. It's always the lady, the whole like scenario. If you picture it based on what the facts of the crime scene are,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
No.
But anything's possible when you're a divorcee in 1956.
Get those vagina guns, honey.
So he found the contents of a woman's purse scattered on the ground. And then he said he also found the key still in the ignition. And then he found women's clothing crumpled on the floorboard. I doubt she took off of her own volition, only dressed in a bra and a slip, right?
Yeah.
They had the, quote, bed down in the car. And I'm like, old cars, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep. There
Yeah,
was a
man.
bed back there.
Good for you.
Yeah, that was like before it was super creepy to have a bed in the
Yeah.
back.
So that was in the 50s where you couldn't have sex. You were never allowed to have sex. So all cars had beds so you could have sex.
So that you could go park somewhere and have sex.
Yeah. Sex bed by Honda. No, there were no Hondas here at that time. Decky says that they were probably in the act of making love when the murder occurred. So this is a Perm and Gilbert situation I think we got here.
Yeah.
50 feet away from the car, they found a pair of footprints made by small bare feet. 5 feet behind the footprints.
Small bare feet.
Yes.
Just to be
Oh,
clear.
yeah. Sorry. 50 feet away from the car, they found a pair of small footprints made by small feet.
That had no shoes.
That weren't in
Bare
shoes.
feet. Okay. We got through that together. Thanks, guys. 5 feet behind those footprints were a set of boots. And bears don't wear boots. So 100, it wasn't a bear. It appeared a scuffle had taken place in the area, and they found a set of car keys where the scuffle had taken place. The purse wasn't found at the crime scene, and there was no other physical evidence or any indication more than that one man had been involved. Later that night, Air Bay found Audrey's car where she had parked next to the cafe where she met Thomas. The keys found at the scene were Audrey's car keys. There was lyrics from The King and I in the back seat written on a piece of paper that Audrey had written out. Dempsey says everyone in town had their own theories and confusion reigned supreme about that time. I love that saying. I don't love when confusion reigns supreme, obviously. That's how Trump's here. 1980, a sick old man said that he knew what happened. Oh, so I guess the case goes cold. In 1980, a sick old man said he knew what happened to Audrey. Ernest Acosta claimed that his common-law wife at the time, Caroline Slesher, had murdered both Thomas and Audrey. He said, quote, they were aggravating her.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And also,
The actors?
backwoods.
I mean, I don't want to insult any of our backwoods listeners. But yes.
Yeah.
Also, the actors were great. The woman who played Caroline was amazing. So she died in 1970. Acosta and Slesher lived a mile away from the crime scene, and Stack says, quote, both had surly reputations. Remember me that way.
Will do, honey.
Acosta was known to shoot at people who came too close to his house.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Marvell Carana tells us that her father, Acosta, was a very mean person. He had no respect for nobody. He'd threaten people with a shotgun and tell them to hit the road, Jack, if he didn't like them or want to answer their questions. Caroline was the same way. She slept with a gun under her pillow. Marvell says the gun would come first and she'd ask questions later.
What were these people worried about?
I don't know. These are like swamp people.
Yes. Yes. I know.
Like, I don't know, swamp people in the 50s, what were they worried about? Commies?
Non-white people.
Non-white people?
Non-swamp
guess.
people.
Other people, anybody that wasn't a swamp person. So the night of the crime, Marvell says her dad was away visiting his kids. Acosta told his daughter that Caroline had killed Thomas and Audrey in the house and that he and a neighbor had moved Hotard and Moate back to Fernair Beach. And then they tied Audrey's body to an old Civil War cannon. I swear you can't make this shit up.
Oh, no.
What? Why? How? I don't know.
Literally how? Also, I'm sorry, you cannot move that by yourself.
I mean, he said he and another person.
Still.
How many swamp people does it take to move a cannon? That's what we need to know. We need answers.
And also, did you just have spares sitting around?
They did.
Oh, my
because I read in a comment
God.
section, up until the 80s, there would be a Civil War cannon in the middle of nowhere. Like in the South. And at most of the monuments to the Civil War that are in the South, any cannon you see is an actual Civil War cannon, just like plated in something.
I know we've talked about this before. We lost our damn minds over that carriage rod in My Treasure segment, but like, you don't find anything here.
Yeah,
okay?
I know.
This is crazy to me.
It's
guys.
old. It is old here. Other people did live on this land, but in a different way.
Yeah, there were no
that old.
There were no ships and cannons and stuff. The East Coast
there
was
were
it's like
Native
Fort
Americans
Stevens.
here.
Yeah.
the East Coast was populated way before. So you find
Yeah.
really cool shit underground all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like they found a ship in the Lower East Side. That's
Meanwhile,
amazing.
I'm stuck with Jesse James's Arrowheads. My little West Coast upbringing. Sorry.
Fuck. Sorry, girl. So Deputy Sheriff Wayne Norwood of St. John Baptist Parish said that Marvell took a lie detector test and passed it. Norwood has taken the case on and worked it for the last 5 years on his own time. He takes us to the location of the old Acosta place, points to where an old cannon used to sit near a swamp, and he says he hopes to go back into the swamp and hopefully they'll find something. Norwood is convinced that Audrey is in that swamp, tied to a cannon, and he's combed the area with a metal detector. And I don't exactly know what he's hoping to find because it's been over 30 years, and I don't know how a little, beach metal detector is going to help, but I think he just wanted to show that he had it, which is fine for him. Norwood isn't convinced that Karlin murdered Hotard and Moate. He thinks Acosta did it. I don't know. It seems like neither of them would have blinked an eye at shooting someone.
No.
So,
yeah.
But statistically, it was Acosta.
Didn't the daughter at one point just say, they love guns?
Yeah.
God.
She was just basically like, these two people were monsters.
Yes.
Yes.
They were batshit
I
crazy
didn't-
and they loved guns.
I didn't get a chance to look into her more, but I want to, and then we'll follow up if I find anything interesting. Okay. So Norwood said that Acosta would have known what was going on because Hotard and Moate parked back at the beach every Saturday just like clockwork. Norwood thinks that Acosta would watch them, and on the day in question, he was watching them. He got excited, and he thinks it was a sex crime. I think that this is the first time anyone says sex crime on UM.
Yes,
and I am
agree.
so happy for
I
it.
agree.
They were finally like, okay,
But
this
also,
is a thing.
what exactly was she saying there? I wasn't really getting it.
It was the sheriff's deputy saying he had been watching them for
Aroused.
months, and
Yeah.
then he got aroused and finally couldn't control himself. So he finally went after her because they did.
Okay.
It had been 2 years of them parking in the same spot and having
yeah.
sex.
It's like turning on the porn channel.
Yeah, at the same time over and over and over again. And if they're at that beach, they're definitely up to no good.
Yeah.
They're meeting. It's a tryst.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I think this is the first time that UM says the term sex crime, and I think it's great.
Agree.
So he shoots Hotard, theoretically, and takes Moate to his home, which is only about a mile away. They show us the location of the murder, and Mr. Stack tells us that the actual spot that Hotard was murdered is now 100 yards underwater of Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh, wow.
Decky, Moate's daughter, says that her mother's death will always be in the back of her mind, and that whatever happens, she hopes she didn't suffer and that she wasn't put through a lot, but she needs to know. So there's no updates on the show. Here we go. There was a massive search for Audrey, and it was taken very seriously. The sheriff called upon every possible resource in the hunt for the missing woman. First, deputies and volunteers fanned out in search teams in all directions. Wearing high boots, they beat their way through palmettos and dense undergrowth, keeping close lookout for snakes as well as a body. I mean, this is fucking swampland.
Yeah.
This is not an easy place to find someone.
No.
State police...
And if you think about decomposition, too.
forget it. So quick. Alligators, snakes. I mean, there's so many things in there that are going to eat you.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so state police observation planes and Coast Guard helicopters crisscross the woods and swamps at tree level. 200 National Guardsmen with walkie-talkies were called out to tramp at arm's length through treacherous sections of the swamp. A guardsman found a postcard addressed to Audrey, partly submerged in muck, not far from the car.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah, said Air Bay. I am going on the assumption that Mrs. Moate is still alive. He should have said Ms. Moate is still alive, or that her body is in Lake Pontchartrain. In cold weather like this, the body shouldn't stay under for more than a week. He's like, we'll just wait it out.
Okay.
In the segment, one of Norwood's reasons for thinking it was Acosta was because he could have walked her a mile away. There were no tracks or anything but the first few footprints that I had mentioned. But then when I was doing additional research, there was a motorcycle track that was found a few feet from the struggle. So someone could have taken her. I don't know how easy it is to kidnap someone on a motorcycle, but... Also not mentioned in this segment were the empty cans of Vienna sausages, empty bags of potato chips, and a loaf of bread. I know I love to eat a can of sausages before having some badass car sex.
Wait, but also...
Polish sausage and potato chips!
Oh,
Full circle!
it all comes together.
But they were into scouting, so maybe that was their sex food. Who knows? Scouts
They're
like
just
things in cans.
They're like... I can't with the Vienna sausages and the sex play. I can't. No.
Okay. Also not mentioned.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine. Then I'm moving on. Also not mentioned in UM. When the detectives went through Audrey's car, they found mail addressed to Mrs. Audrey Hotard.
What?
Which makes you wonder if he was planning on leaving his beloved wife, Beulah. While 2 of Audrey's children were from her ex-husband, it would turn out that Audrey had gone to live in St. Louis for 5 months in 1955 after a, quote, nervous breakdown before returning with a newborn baby girl.
Whoa.
Audrey claimed that she had adopted the child from a couple who didn't want her, and Thomas sponsored the adoption, allowed Audrey to use his last name on some of the documentation. So it seems pretty obvious that he was the father.
Yeah.
Minnie Smith, Audrey's mother, had this to say, quote, I can tell you Mr. Hotard was certainly good to that baby. Why, he took care of it as though it had been his own, always bringing things to Audrey and Jacqueline.
Oh boy.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline Hotard.
None of this, honey, I know.
No.
That's why we do this show, and that's why it's so fucking awesome.
Crazy.
In the months prior to her disappearance, Audrey had told her mother that if anything ever happened to her, she should take her 3 children and leave town, but never provided any explanation for this. Her daughter had mentioned that previously. While Beulah Hotard knew Audrey and openly disliked her, she claimed she was unaware of the affair, and police did not consider her or Audrey's ex-husbands to be suspects. Years before the murders, Thomas and Audrey were employed by the same chemical company. And when there was a strike, Thomas allowed Audrey to stay at his family's home for a couple of months. According to Beulah, Audrey was constantly making attempts to be around her husband and caused dissension between them. Here's what she had to say in a 1957 article. Quote,
This is the mom?
this is Beulah Hotard. This is Thomas's wife.
Oh, the wife. Okay.
So the article leads with, by the time Mrs. Hotard learned about Jacqueline, she also knew that Celotex Records, the company they worked for, showed that her husband had only worked 1 Saturday in the last 4 years.
Oh.
With less restraint than she had previously shown, the widow talked about Audrey's 6-month stay as their house guest. Quote, she never helped me in any way, not even with the dishes. She hated housework, and she was always around Tom. If he was working on his motorboat or reading or anything, there she was. She knew she was causing dissension between us. She wasn't at all attractive, but she was intelligent and seemed well educated and had a way of twisting people around her finger. I hated her.
Wow.
This is insane.
Hotard, so like previously she was like, my husband wasn't the type to be at Frenier Beach, dead or alive. Yeah. Oh no, clutching her pearls. And they were like, so actually, and she was like, that fucking bitch.
She's like for 1,000 Saturdays, actually?
Yeah. So initially there were a few suspects. I read an article from November 28th, 1956 that claimed that a local moss picker had been brought in for questioning. The details in the article are irrelevant beside what is a moss picker, and then I forgot to look it up. Sorry, but I think he picks moss.
Is it as obvious as a
I'm
dirt
thinking-
farmer?
Yeah, but dirt farmer wasn't obvious.
That's
Yeah.
the googs.
Okay. So the reason why I am referencing this article, because there was no information, because aside from what's a moss picker, there's a quote. This is November 28th, 1956. So this is 4 days after the body was found.
Okay.
Airbay said last night he had the case, quote, in the palm of my hand. He said he expected a solution today. The sheriff declined to comment on what prompted his optimism. So, I mean, he thought he had that case on lock 4 days after the death. And now it's been like 20 billion years, I think.
Yeah.
So Airbay had this kind of attitude for years. And I can't figure out if he knew who did it and just couldn't snag the person and was trying to taunt them, or if he was full of shit. In another article that was written 6 days after the body, he said he expected to have it wrapped up in a week or so.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so a man named Jackson Lejeune came forward claiming that he had witnessed the murders of Thomas and Audrey. He said that while driving around with a friend, his companion spotted the couple and muttered, "That's her," before pulling a shotgun from the floorboard floorboards. The man then shot Thomas through the window before dragging Audrey into the woods, where Leun described hearing a few more shots. His friend then came back to the car and grabbed a shovel before heading into the woods alone again. The witness claimed that he kept quiet because he was threatened by the killer. Despite the fact that Jackson Leun seemed to genuinely believe that his life was in danger, going so far as to beg for police protection, discrepancies in his story caused enough doubt that the police did not arrest the alleged killer. On January 1st, Constance Grigore, a 43-year-old ex-convict, was arrested with a ton of weapons, and they thought that he might have done it because he was an ex-convict and he was in the area at the time. One of the weapons they found was a gun that could be fired from both ends.
What?
I know. I don't know what that means, and I tried to look it up, but it turns out that it's in the Smithsonian, and the Smithsonian has a lot of guns. So I kept Googling, like...
But that doesn't seem like a great idea.
I mean, when they say both, I guess maybe you can, like, flip it or something? I don't know.
Because you wouldn't want it to shoot back at you.
Yeah, so I found an article, you know, because
Or maybe you
I
hold
never
it-
stopped looking.
Maybe you hold it and it shoots out sideways from you, like to the left and right.
I couldn't get an image of it at all. And this was an article from, I think in the 70s, that the weapon, about 15 inches long, can be fired from both ends. And it was taken from Constance Grigore during an investigation of a murder. Grigore was cleared of the crime. A member of the Alcohol Tobacco Tax Division at New Orleans said the Smithsonian asked for the weapon because there are only a few in existence. So I don't know.
Because how do you not shoot yourself?
Unless it shoots out left and right.
I went through like a lot of photos of guns. I also can't tell the difference between any guns, so I was like, I kept being like, I don't know, could you flip that one backward? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But so
Or like the only other thing I can think of is that
it's like a fun fact.
you were able to have both sides loaded so that when you ran out on one side, you could flip it and use the other.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But both seem dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think all guns are dangerous because I'm a dirty liberal, so what do I know?
Yeah.
Another suspect in the initial investigation was 40-year-old Edmund Dua. He shot and wounded a woman in New Orleans during a robbery attempt. He was linked to the case after a purse was found in his vehicle. The purse matched the description of Audrey's missing purse. After being given, quote, a truth serum,
Oh boy.
Dua confessed to killing the couple. He claimed to have buried Audrey's body in a dump. However, her remains were not found in the dump. It was only 7 years later that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that confessions produced by truth serum were unconstitutional and inadmissible. So yeah, I don't think he did anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they gave him lots of drugs. The article title is Negro Given Lie Test in 1956 Slang.
Wow.
Ayo!
Great.
Nice work, Louisiana.
Great.
1959, baby. Okay, so Ernest Acosta claimed that he kept Audrey's body in an iron fish box for several days because hundreds of National Guardsmen were searching the swamps for her. It wasn't until after the search was concluded that he decided to place her body in the cannon and dump it into the swamp. So I can understand why no one found it. I Google Earth the area, and there's a restaurant now and buildings and paved roads. But if you zoom out even a tiny bit, you see nothing but trees and swamps. And then someone else linked to a photo that they thought was possibly where the Acosta's shack had been, across from like this other little swamp. And it does look really familiar, but there's nothing there now. So who knows? Audrey Moate's two children went on to live with their biological father after she disappeared. But for years, no one knew what happened to her third child, who she had, quote, adopted with the help of Thomas. The child would have only been about 1 year old, and it was presumed that Audrey's mother-in-law, who she was still very close to, may have taken her. Eventually, years later, this was posted on Web Sleuths. The handle is Arissa Sheik. She said, quote, my mother is the third child. She was born December 21st, 1955, and was only 11 months old when this crime occurred. I believe she was living with her mom, Audrey, at the time of the crime, and then she was raised by distant relatives. From what I can remember, my mom told me that her biological mom, Audrey, and her adoptive mom had the same grandparents. She had never had any dealings with the Hotard family. My brother sent me a link for that forum that someone posted saying that the baby's name was Jacqueline Hotard. This is the first that I have heard of that. My mother's first name is Jacqueline, so it is sweet to know that her adoptive parents kept her name. So my mom, in parentheses, the third child, was raised by relatives of Audrey. I know that my biological grandmother, Minnie Pearl Smith, and my adoptive grandmother were cousins, so she was raised on the Smith side to answer your questions. She was essentially shipped off to California to avoid a scandal after the murder. The other 2 children were never involved in my mom's early life. The, quote, adoption was all facilitated by my great-aunt Marguerite Roberts, who was a famous Hollywood screenwriter.
What?
She wrote the original True Grit movie, along with some other movies. Dragon Seed is another that comes to mind. Anyway, no one in the family seems to think that the ex-husband nor the wife of Mr. Hotard had anything to do with the murders. I still think it's a little far-fetched that a couple bumpkins in the bayou who later admitted to killing Audrey had anything to do with it, but who knows? My dad recently visited me, and I asked him what he remembered, and he said the only thing he recalled was that at that time, my great-aunt Marguerite was being blacklisted in Hollywood for all of the communism backlash that was going on at the time, and the FBI was somehow involved. And this is the first time I had heard that theory. So now I'm thinking that Caroline, because there's a part in the segment where Caroline and Ernest's daughter says that either the dad or the mom said that they knew something about Audrey and Thomas, or Audrey and Thomas knew something about them.
Right.
And now I'm thinking that maybe Caroline knew about Thomas and Audrey's baby.
Oh.
And knew the baby was actually his.
Because they kind of made it seem like they were coming to her for help of some sort.
Because at some point, they're seen arguing a couple times, and then at some point, she's like, on the night she supposedly killed them, she was like, come on in, boy, but I won't have any of that in here, or something like that. So I'm thinking that maybe she knew that, and maybe they were trying to extort money. I don't know. But they were definitely related. Another poster on Web Sleuths, Web Sleuths was awesome for this story. The poster, Fort Bold, said there was a debate because, so when I first watched this segment, I was like, it doesn't make any sense. This is Hunter. He's out every morning hunting, morning with his son hunting, like in the exact same location.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about hunting, but it just seemed very odd that he saw the car with the people in it alive the day before and then found the bodies.
Yeah.
That's kind of big. That's a red flag. This poster on Web Sleuths, Fort Bold, said there was a debate about the hunter who saw the car on Saturday and, quote, found the body on Sunday. So follow me here because it gets a bit weird. I'm pretty sure Jack Monterey is Henry Jack Monterey, christened Henry Joseph Monterey. Monterey is a known name from this neck of the woods. I believe Henry Joseph Jack Monterey had a son named after him. So Jack Monterey, like spelling, and Henry Monterey could have actually been Jack Monterey and son Henry Monterey. Do you understand? So, there were a bunch of papers reporting. There's a ton of people with similar last names in that area.
Okay.
And they're all related to each other. Okay. So this person is saying one newspaper reported that the hunter's name was this. Another reported that it was this. And they're saying out of the two, it's the most likely that it was Monterey and his son.
Okay.
Have we heard them before?
No.
Yeah,
They didn't give us a name.
Yeah.
They gave us no information about the hunter and the son. The son makes sense, but not the hunter.
Yeah.
Another commenter, Pink Panther, replies and says, I looked into Henry Joseph a while back and do remember being quite convinced that there had to be some connection to him and the crime, even if he didn't actually commit it. And then, this is still him, OMG. I just went in to do a quick check, and there is a very direct link to the Vicanair family, Howard's wife, Beulah's family. He was married to the daughter of a Vicanair. There's also a possible sighting of Audrey in New Orleans. A witness described a haggard, disheveled woman whose resemblance to Audrey was striking. The woman was never identified and was never confirmed to be Audrey. But Beulah called the police and said if Audrey Moate was still alive, she would be scared for her life and the lives of her children. Which is a weird thing to say if you don't have anything to do with her disappearance.
Yeah.
In 2011, Decky Moate gave her DNA to the police with the hope that Louisiana Missing Persons would have Audrey's remains. Quote, she worked with the Missoula Police Department to get a DNA sample to the FACES lab at Louisiana State University. The DNA will be tested against several identified remains the lab has collected. She is hoping one is Audrey. 50 years later, Moate is still waiting for news on her mother. But time is running out. My life is finishing very soon, or at the very most, a couple of years, and it's something I really want to do. Moate has cancer, and she says the outlook isn't good, but finding her mother is on her bucket list, and she plans to cross it off. What it means to me is that we can put her to rest, she said. Moate says it will take 3 months for researchers to come up with the results for the DNA testing, and there was never any follow-up to the tests, so it's reasonable to assume nothing came of them. I found a posting from Decky in a Web Sleuths forum in 2011 around the time the article came out, and she said something I thought was interesting. Quote, Unsolved Mysteries based a lot of their show on a script I wrote about the case, but changed a lot of it. So don't believe everything on it.
Wow.
Since I have several terminal illnesses, I am sending a DNA sample to the LSU Missing Persons Project. Since the relatively near future, I will be placed in a pauper's grave with 3 coffins stacked in one plot and no identification on the graves.
Why?
This will negate identification, so nobody will be able to find my body later. And she couldn't afford to be buried, so she was going to be buried in a pauper's grave when she died. Beulah Hotard passed away in 1986 without any sort of like further information, aside from the fact that it was her relation that found Thomas.
That is so weird.
Yeah. Yep. And then sadly, I mean, sort of sadly, but in 2011, Decky thought she just had a few years to live, but she just passed away in January of 2019.
Oh, wow.
She had contracted hepatitis C as a result of a bad blood transfusion in the 1980s, and it would consume the next 20 years of her life, finally resulting in her death from liver cancer. However, she led a full and interesting life. She studied at the Lee Strasberg Theater Center. She performed in touring shows and across the country and became a web designer. Apparently, UM admitted this segment was one of its, quote, failures, as they got no info on the case. The case was 30 years old by then. Probably didn't help anything. And the fact that the people in this parish are parish people probably didn't help either.
Swampy parish people.
I mean, they are just all related and no one is telling anybody anybody's secrets.
But UM was like, oh, well, we'll do this segment anyway.
They're like, we're UM. We already solved 12Es. Like, we're good. We got this. Wow. Someone must have seen something. Nope. St. Joseph Parish was like, no one saw anything. And that was it. As UM mentioned, Audrey had handwritten song lyrics from The King and I on a piece of paper that was found with some postcards and other mementos in the back of her car. And here's what she had written. Quote, we kiss in a shadow, we hide from the moon. Our meetings are few and over too soon. We speak in a whisper, afraid to be heard. When people are near, we speak not a word. Alone in our secret, together we sigh. But one smiling day to be free, to kiss in the sunlight, and to say to the sky, behold and believe what you see. Behold how my lover loves me. And that is the story of Thomas Hotard and Audrey Moate.
Wow, that's crazy. Twists
What was
and
going on?
turns. What's going on?
Swamps.
I think that Beulah had her brother-in-law kill them. And then
Yeah, it seems likely.
I think that Beulah had her brother-in-law bring the son by to see them and then have them come back out the next day to see them dead. Wow. And I think they used that little boy as an alibi, sort of.
That's crazy.
That's my theory. I think Beulah was into it.
Behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been Ernest. It could have been him, and that's what a lot of people think, but hell hath no fury.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially that time, like that kind of humiliation in a small town like that. So
Wow.
okay. It is time for Sharesy Feelsies.
Okay. I have no feelings today.
Well, you must be a little excited. You're about to embark on an international.
Oh, yes. The day this episode comes out, actually, I'll be on a flight from Seattle to London.
Oh.
Wish me luck.
Oh, my God.
So I'm excited about that, but of course, it's really stressful to get ready for international travel. So, especially when you're leaving a 3-year-old at home. So.
Yeah. And like, where do you put your drugs? You know.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest stressors right now. Tomorrow we get to see Georgia and Karen do a reading in Portland for their book, so that should be fun.
And we also get copies of books.
Yeah.
Which we love.
Yeah, they're doing a little book tour, so we're going to go see it. Yeah, it's only 3 cities, I think.
Cool. Well, we'll
Let's
be
name
there.
more cities. That'll be fun.
And we're in the front row.
God, that's so weird.
And it's super small. Revolution Hall's really small anyway, so that should be crazy.
Yeah,
It's
so-
an old high school auditorium. Super
So
small.
cool. Yeah.
yeah. So by the time this episode comes out, we will have already seen it. So we'll do an update later.
Yeah. Allison, do you have something to feel or read?
I mean, my recommendation is the book The Man from the Train, The Solving of a Century-Old Serial Killer Mystery. And this book is very nonfiction-y, but it's pretty amazing. They kind of solve the Vasilia Axe murders, which is one of like the OGs of true crime fandom. Yeah. And then along with that, probably solve a lot more. It's a father-daughter writing team and research team, which I think is so great.
That's so cute.
Mm-hmm. And they managed to connect all of these deaths together through like common MOs. It's fascinating. And I think it's just awesome that this duo went through all of this time to go through these records that are on paper. It's not like anything's online. You have to go to these small towns and find and wade through all of these old documents. And I mean, it's wild, you know, journals and all of this crazy shit. And I just really respect research that's done that way. And I think I'm in the middle of it, so I don't know if they definitely name somebody at the end of it, but they certainly have connected the pieces so far for at least 4 different
really cool.
like family slayings. Yeah, it's really cool. So nice. I recommend that, and I'll link to it.
Great. Okay.
Well, I've been trying for 34 years to re-up my feels, and it's just not happening. So.
All right. Well,
let's do the outro.
Okay. So thank you for listening to episode 21. If you would like to see pictures and different things that we reference in the show, Karlin does an amazing job on our Instagram.
She's funny.
She's funny. She spends lots and lots of time on it.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
She likes compliments.
She likes compliments.
She gets mad easily.
She definitely has road rage.
It's taking a turn. Yes. It's taking a turn. Uh-oh. She hates when people cheat in trivia.
Wow, that's the most we've revealed about ourselves at all.
Okay. So follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Resolve the Pod. And we have a Patreon page. So you can go to patreon.com/Resolve Mysteries Podcast. And you'll get 2 extra episodes a month there. You can also talk with us a little bit more there. We're starting Slack over there. We'll have a little bit more going on.
For the book club.
Yep.
And then also the listener party for the season finale. For our patrons.
So please go over there. It really, really does help us out. This is a ton of work, and we really like it. But it's nice to be able to.
It's nice to be able.
You can cut that.
It's nice to be able to eat a burrito before we record.
Yes.
Long story short.
Yes. Totally. Fill up our bellies. Okay.
Fill up our bellies with food truck burritos.
We also come out with short stacks when we get listener mail. So send us stories at resolvemysteriespodcast.com or at our email, which is resolvemysteriespodcast@gmail.com. You can send Karlin presents at P.O. Box 14005, Portland, Oregon 97293, or you can also send letters or stories there to us. Instagram is at @re_solve mysteries, and Twitter and Facebook at Resolve the Pod. Good luck editing this one, Allison.
You're welcome.
Subscribe. It helps us out. Leave a 5-star review. We are donating $1 to For Goodness Cakes for every review we receive in June. And tell a friend about our podcast. We love you listeners and appreciate all of your support and kind messages and you sharing us. It means a lot.
Yeah.
You're the best. Somebody.
Yes.
That's so awesome.
All right. We love you.
Love you guys.
Love.
See you at episode 22. Oh, are we supposed to talk about what we're talking about in episode 22?
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, my God. This is our first day.
Episode 22. Allison has a wanted segment.
TK Hardy's, honey.
I have a fraud segment. Not happy about it.
You will be.
I am.
I gave it to you.
Oh, you're nice.
And it'll trace back to a statement that you made. One of your first fraud segments.
It's an Easter egg for me.
A little bit,
just
so
for you.
nice.
All right, so I have Liz Carmichael is my fraud segment. Karlin?
Yes, and I have the unexplained death of Terry McClure.
All right. We'll see you then. 2 weeks. Bye.
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 Hey, everybody. We know you already like listening to Resolve Mysteries, but did you know that you can get paid while you listen to us and some of your other favorite pods? There's this free new app called Podcoin, and it pays you in Podcoins to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. Find your favorite podcasts or check out new ones, listen to podcasts, and earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you exchange the Podcoin for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you choose, you can donate the Podcoin to a nonprofit. They have partnered with Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, which is a national childhood cancer foundation dedicated to helping children with the disease through funding impactful research, raising awareness, supporting families, and empowering everyone to help cure childhood cancer. The more you listen, the more you earn. So download the app on an iPhone or Android and use our special code MYSTERIES, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. I use it to listen to Armchair Expert and Ear Hustle and other pods I already really like, but I've also discovered a lot of other podcasts on there too. There are over 500,000 on there, so you'll definitely find something new. So download the Podcoin app on your mobile device, use our code MYSTERIES for 300 Podcoin, and get a reward for something you're doing anyway, binging on podcasts.
I say immediately panicking and checking.
Yeah, I did.
It's did. Okay.
I've got it.
It's did. It's done. I did it.
It did it.
I did it. Okay.
Fuck my life.
Fuck my life. All right.
that did record.
Fucky chameleon.
That wasn't even a good one. And I'm usually your biggest fan. Okay.